They carved instructions into stones no one would ever see.
Welcome to Stargate Codex. I am Dr. Elias Thorn, lead historian and decoder of ancient systems. We bypass standard chronological textbooks to dissect preserved records, architectural constants, and structural anomalies left by history's most guarded networks. Prepare to decode the pattern.
Start with a simple observation. Across the Old Kingdom quarries of Egypt and the hidden voussoirs of medieval cathedrals, stones bear marks that serve no obvious decorative purpose. These marks often sit where no lay observer will see them, inside walls, beneath arches. Why mark what will be hidden? Think about that. Hatnub. At Hatnub, ostraca and painted quarry graffiti dated to the Old Kingdom administrative horizon pair names with grouped signs adjacent to measured notations. These are catalogued in continental archives as field entries tied to pottery seriation and stratigraphy. The inscriptions do more than count bodies. They record measured values and sequence identifiers consistent with workshop routing. Sumerian corvée tablets sharpen the operational picture. The UR3 logistics lists specify barges, sledges, labor units, and appended measures for block dimensions. These tablets were operational ledgers, crews named, wagon loads enumerated, numeric measures attached. When a quarry mark aligns with a unit value found on a corvée tablet, the mark behaves like a node in a metrological network, rather than a mere signature. Aswan and Hatnub are the first waypoint, but the pattern crosses the Mediterranean. Alexandria. Alexandrian papyri fragments and Roman lapidary manifests detail orders for measured marble, diameter, tenon offset, orientation. Port archives record marble shipments with shorthand that specifies functional templates, and operational language transmitted from patron to workshop and, crucially, inscribed on the stone. Picture the workflow. A block cut at a quarry receives 3 marks: a workshop identifier, an orientation glyph, and a template symbol. The block travels by river and road. On arrival, the same symbol appears on the mason's guideboard. The chain: metrological standard, transport accounting, assembly template. Now, move forward a millennium. Chartres, Canterbury, Rosslyn. Medieval masons' mark catalogues preserved in cathedral accounts list hundreds of unique signs tied to workshops and masters. The marks recur across hidden voussoirs and vault ribs. Rosslyn's lapidary inventories explicitly link mark forms to named craftsmen and to geometric templates for compasses and polygonal layouts. Templar estate ledgers introduce a fiscal dimension. Payments itemized by template class, entries noting column, class A, mark alpha, delivered, show that marks were fiscal as well as technical. The mark is an invoice, an identity token, and an instruction set. 17th-century Rosicrucian correspondence, collected in Skye Alden's modern compendia, adds an explicit archival strategy. Letters advise keeping signs that are not for public reading, and recommend retaining templates in stone as redundancy should manuscript libraries be at risk. Mark as mnemonic, inscription as redundancy, stone as archive. A methodological caveat is necessary. The documentary chain is not always unbroken. In some cases, we hold the quarry note, but not the transport manifest. In others, we have a mason's roll without a matching ostracon. I restrict claims to intersections of text and material evidence. Listen to an example, paraphrased from the catalog. Hatnub ostracon A12, Team 3, 2 loads, measure unit 2. Read out that way, the entry suggests a measured dispatch. But without a Nile convoy manifest naming Team 3, we cannot definitively link that entry to a specific shipped block. Probable, not proven. Where linkage exists, Hatnub Ostracan A12 to an associated convoy tablet, or a Rosslyn inventory entry to a surviving marked voussoir, the interpretation is compelling. Marks function as metrological identity and assembly instruction, in effect, a technological script. Mapping mark forms across time reveals three structural properties. 1. Redundancy. Overlapping marks on a single block protect against data loss. 2. Standardization. Glyphs align with regional units, enabling scaling without detailed textual explanation. 3. Custodial transmission. Guilds and preceptories taught and preserved these marks as embodied practice. Control of metrology is control of reproducible architecture. A group that preserves a standard cubit or a proportional template can produce sanctified spaces and fortified works whose geometry signals authority. Custodial nodes, Templar preceptories, operative lodges, Rosicrucian correspondences acted as repositories of operational metrics, not only esoteric lore.
Concrete consequence, where guilds regulated marks and templates, building campaigns ran with reproducible quality. Logistics tightened, errors decreased. Architecture becomes legible to others sharing the same praxis, an embodied language of power. Reading quarry marks as encoded technology reframes long-standing questions. Why persist in carving redundant insignia once elite literacy expands? Because marks travel with stone, survive fires, and instantiate standards when texts vanish. To synthesize succinctly, mason's marks and quarry graffiti form a transmissible technology. They encode metrological standards, assembly templates, and logistics into the fabric of buildings. These practices were stewarded by operative institutions that evolved into custodial networks, ensuring technical continuity across generations and crises. For exact references, the episode page hosts annotated plates, high-resolution photographs of Hatnub ostraca, translated Sumerian corvée entries, Chartres and Canterbury mark catalogues, Rosslyn inventories, Templar ledger extracts, and the Rosicrucian letters included in Skye Alden's assemblage. Each plate links to catalog shelf marks and provenance notes. That concludes our historical tracking of this specific anomaly within the Codex. The records demonstrate that behind the curtain of standard history lies a repeating, systemic mechanism of knowledge transmission and governance preserved across generations. We have laid out the timeline, parsed the primary source texts, and exposed the architectural blueprint. The archive remains open for those who know how to read it. The archive never lies. The text remains.